Coming up on MilCyberSync, NATO in the crosshairs of increased cyber attacks.
Also ahead, the nation's Army Cyber Command is celebrating a first as it welcomes its newly minted leader.
And the warning is being sounded for increased phishing attacks during the country's midterms. So get ready to get in sync with MilCyberSync.
You're watching the MilCyberSync Weekly News with your host, Nick Thomas, and news anchor, Layla Gulen.
Hello and welcome to the MilCyberSync Podcast, reporting on the latest events happening in cyber news. I'm Layla Gulen with your host, Nick Thomas. Nick, great to see you.
Good to see you, Layla. How you been doing this week?
Doing great. It's been a busy one.
It has been a busy one, so let's get straight into it, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, in NATO today, cyber attacks against NATO countries are on the rise. China appears to be behind an exponential increase since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th. Cyber attacks from Chinese IPs have also risen 72% worldwide. The increase in attacks from Chinese servers is also significantly higher than the increase in cyber attacks overall since Russia's invasion began. The FBI announced it would be partnering with the private sector to combat foreign cyber attacks against U.S. entities. Layla?
Well, a known threat actor has launched what appears to be the first Chinese hacking attempts targeting Ukraine. The suspected activity is believed to be connected to the Chinese threat actor known as Scarab. Active since at least 2012, Scarab was previously observed targeting individuals worldwide, including people in the U.S., Russia, and elsewhere. The threat actor is mainly known for the use of the custom backdoor Siron, which is believed to be the predecessor of the header tip malware family used in the recent Ukrainian campaign. The malware appears mainly designed to function as a first stager, likely meant to deploy more advanced second stage payload. Well, Sentinel Labs researchers say that Scarab is likely operating under geopolitical intelligence collection purposes. Nick?
Meanwhile, Ukraine's government, energy and communication systems, and humanitarian efforts have been repeatedly targeted by Russian hackers. The attackers focus on critical infrastructure, both state-owned and private, and mainly with a connection to land-to-air invasion. Attacks on the logistics circuits and supply of the food and humanitarian support for the cities is also being waged. Moscow has consistently denied conducting malicious cyber pursuits amid this conflict. Layla?
2 indictments against 4 Russian nationals have been unsealed. They are accused of working for the Russian government while simultaneously attempting to hack into the online infrastructure of the global energy sector. The defendants are accused of hacking thousands of computers across hundreds of companies and firms in 135 individual countries participating within the energy industry. Well, prosecutors allege that 3 officers of Russia's Federal Security Service and other co-conspirators targeted software systems in the global energy sector to give the Russian government the ability to compromise the overall industry. The 2-part hacking attempt began with hacking infected legitimate software updates with malware, followed by targeting individuals and engineers with spear phishing attacks. Nick?
A new bill aimed at protecting the healthcare industry has been introduced amid the high risk of a Russia-sponsored attack. It's called the Healthcare Cybersecurity Act and would direct CISA to collaborate thoroughly with the Department of Health and Human Services on defending 16 infrastructure fields. The bill would protect patients' data and public health by strengthening resilience to cyber warfare. The move follows the White House's recent warning of a high risk of cyber attacks as Russia continues to wage war against Ukraine, and would mitigate this threat by authorizing more cybersecurity education and training to healthcare industry leaders. Layla?
Well, North Korea's state-backed hackers have infected hundreds of organizational computers through a Chrome zero-day exploit. The vulnerability is a remote code execution flaw that allows an attacker to gain full control over a user's device. The campaigns have been observed as Operation Dream Job and Operation Apple Juice, and are believed to be linked to the North Korean group Lazarus. Lazarus has been connected to several major cyber crimes, including the 2016 incident against Bangladesh Bank that resulted in the loss of $101 million. The APTs use the same exploit kit that involved different components and stages to victimize users. Aware that security teams were monitoring them, the attackers were careful to deploy techniques to make the exploits more difficult to protect. Nick?
The Federal Aviation Administration will be extending its target date to complete an environmental review of the proposed SpaceX Starship spacecraft and Super Heavy rocket program. Based in Boca Chica, Texas, the review is expected to conclude in late April. The FAA noted that completing the environmental review does not guarantee a vehicle operator license will be issued, which must also meet FAA safety, risk, and financial responsibility requirements. Layla?
Military leaders have laid out their priorities for network modernization and the future network of 2030. They took part in several panels at last week's Satellite 2022 Industry Symposium in Washington, D.C., and concluded that better preparation is required for what has become a hostile cyber environment. The program's executive officer for Command, Control, Communications Tactical says that they are focused on three things: data, multipath transport, agnostic capabilities, and security. The latter will play a heavy role in the data-centric environment of the Army's network of 2030, and the Army is increasing both data protection and transmission security to support its network modernization efforts. Nick?
NBC News recently got a first-ever look inside the nation's Space Force. Both the headquarters and mobile command center aboard an 18-wheeler are based in Colorado under heavy armed guard and is responsible for fielding more than 70% of satellite communications, including militaristic and presidential Space Force officials called Guardians. They're stationed at the main Space Force Ops Center, where they keep tabs on military satellites and monitor world GPS in an increasingly hostile environment where Russia and China have become the chief adversaries. For example, both Russian and Chinese satellites blew up one of their own satellites, creating a massive orbiting debris field last year. Officials say U.S. commercial and military satellites are constantly harassed through several methods that include jamming, harmful interface, RF spectrum, laser dazzling, and, of course, cyber attacks. Layla?
Well, the Senate has just confirmed the first woman to lead the Army's digital warfighting branch. Army Major General Maria Barrett was approved to be the next chief of Army Cyber Command and become a 3-star general. Barrett is responsible for the operation and defense of the services, part of the Defense Department Information Network. She previously served as Deputy of Operations at U.S. Cyber Command. Before that, she was the Deputy Commanding General at Cyber Command's Joint Force Headquarters, Cyber, and Deputy Commander for Operations for the Command's Cyber National Mission Force. She will lead more than 16,000 personnel and oversee regional centers around the world from Army Cyber Headquarters at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Nick?
A multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity budget has been proposed by the Biden administration. Spending under the proposal would increase by 11% to nearly $11 billion and would raise cyber budgets across the federal civilian government. The 2023 budget request includes another $300 million for the Technology Modernization Fund. The proposal highlights the mission across the government to find, entice, and inject more qualified cybersecurity workers into the federal pipeline. Additionally, the underfunded IRS would get approximately $310 million through 2025 for its business systems modernization plan and to improve cybersecurity and deal with an aging and retiring workforce. Layla?
Well, meanwhile, down under, Australia is poised to bolster its cyber budget to a whopping 10 billion Australian dollars for cybersecurity over the next 10 years. Named Red Spice, which stands for Resilience, Effects, Defense, Space, Intelligence, Cyber, and Enablers, the program is expected to help build the country's intelligence and defense and offensive capabilities. Further investment in advanced artificial intelligence and machine learning will likely be used to detect attacks earlier than currently possible, potentially allowing automated responses to cyber incidents. Nick?
We've got more to come. A recent phishing attack claims victims belonging to one of the nation's top wealth management teams. Details after the break.
Today's network and security monitoring solutions are vulnerable. to overload situations that lead to decreased visibility and undetected intrusions. Monitoring applications require hardware to keep up with real-time traffic analysis, making it complex and costly. Your security monitoring solutions may be unable to keep up during cyber attacks or traffic spikes, making intrusion more likely. A new approach is needed to increase network protection and visibility. Excelio simplifies and streamlines your network monitoring for critical security, network, and application analysis. Learn more at excelio.com.
Welcome back. Several foreign companies have appeared on the FCC's hit list to be banned. Kaspersky Lab, China Telecom Americas Corp., the China Mobile International USA Inc. are believed to pose a national security threat. Kaspersky was quick to release a statement saying the company's bug bounty platform hosted with HackerOwn was indefinitely suspended and that it has frozen existing funds and discussions for already reported vulnerabilities. Officials say there are some possible ways for companies to alleviate concerns, including sharing source code and reproducible build process with the foreign government. Nick?
Google has issued an emergency security update for Chrome 99. The patch will resolve a high-severity vulnerability for which a public exploit already exists. The security hole is described as a type confusion bug in the V8 JavaScript and WebAssembly engine. The internet search giant says the bug was reported by an anonymous researcher, and the company has yet to determine the bug bounty amount for this issue. A patch for this flaw has been included in Chrome 99, which is now rolling out for Windows, Mac, and Linux users. Chrome and Edge users are advised to apply the available patches as soon as possible. Layla?
Well, meanwhile, the tech giant has released a security-themed Chrome browser makeover. The new browser refresh is now rolling out to Windows, Mac, and Linux users as Chrome 100. 9 of the security defects identified by external researchers are rated high severity. Use after free was the most common type of vulnerability among the issues reported externally, followed by inappropriate implementation. Chrome 100 arrives less than a week after Google issued an emergency fix to address a zero-day vulnerability in the V8 JavaScript engine. There have been only 2 documented 0 days in Chrome this year. Nick?
Apple has released emergency patches to cover a pair of actively exploited vulnerabilities affecting Mac OS, iOS, iPadOS devices. The defects affect all its major operating systems, and the company warned that remote code execution attacks may already be underway. One of the 2 vulnerabilities described as an out-of-bounds memory corruption issue is an Apple AVD. Affects both iOS and Mac OS devices. There have been at least 13 documented zero-day attacks so far this year. The company did not provide any details or indicators or compromise to help its users detect signs of malicious activity. Layla?
Well, the FBI is warning election officials of potential invoice-themed phishing attacks meant to steal their login credentials. Such attacks have already hit U.S. election officials in at least 9 states, and the FBI expects the phishing attempts to continue and even ramp up. The phishing emails take the recipients to websites where they are prompted to provide their login credentials. Officials believe threat actors will likely increase their efforts ahead of the 2022 midterms, but proactive monitoring of election infrastructure could help mitigate the threat. This also includes educating employees on phishing, mark external emails with a banner, have employees forward suspicious emails to its IT departments, and employ multi-factor authentication. Nick?
The FBI has arrested 65 people as part of an international effort to combat business email compromise, or BEC fraud. BEC scammers typically target employees in charge of making or authorizing wire transfers from either a compromised or a spoofed email account. The fraudsters use the accounts to send legitimate-looking requests for wire transfers to bank accounts that they control. The crackdown, named Operation Eagle Sweep, resulted in the arrest of suspects in the U.S., Nigeria, South Africa, Canada, and Cambodia. These attacks have resulted in losses totaling nearly $2.4 billion. Layla.
Well, Nick, CISA and the Department of Energy are jointly warning of attacks against internet-connected uninterruptible power supply, or UPS, devices by means of default usernames and passwords. UPS devices are also equipped with an Internet of Things capability, enabling the administrators to carry out power monitoring and routine maintenance. This often opens the door to malicious attacks. To mitigate against such threats, CISA and DOE are advising organizations to enumerate and disconnect all UPS systems from the Internet and gate them behind a virtual private network, as well as enforce multi-factor authentication.
An unidentified threat actor has been observed employing a complex and powerful malware loader to deploy cryptocurrency miners. The attack would target compromised systems and potentially facilitate the theft of Discord tokens. This advanced piece of malware is being called VerbalCon and was first spotted in January, with the payload incorporating polymorphic qualities to evade signature-based detections by security software. The loader carries out further anti-analysis checks to determine if it's currently being debugged or opened in a virtual or sandbox environment. It then proceeds to copy itself into the machine and connect to a remote server to retrieve an encrypted blob that contains a URL, which is then used to fetch the miner payloads. Layla?
Well, it's being considered one of the biggest hacks in cryptocurrency history. The digital currency wallet Ronin says there was a security breach on its network and discovered Sky Mavis's Ronin validator nodes and Axie DAO validator nodes were compromised. This has resulted in more than 173,000 Ethereum tokens valued at nearly $595 million, and $25.5 million have been drained from the Ronin bridge in 2 transactions. Sky Mavis said that the attacker used hacked private keys in order to forge fake withdrawals. So far, the stolen cryptocurrency hasn't been transferred from the account that did the attack. Ronin allows users to play Axie Infinity and other decentralized applications running on Ronin, an Ethereum sidechain built specifically for blockchain games. Nick.
A phishing campaign has targeted one of the country's top private wealth management teams. Morgan Stanley Wealth Management said cybercriminals broke into accounts using social engineering attacks. The voice-based phishing or vishing attacks include hackers impersonating the trusted financial firm during phone calls to customers, where they encourage customers to reveal sensitive personal and financial information, including banking or login credentials. The attack resulted in fraudsters electronically transferring money to their own bank account by initiating payments using the Zelle payment service. The small number of clients impacted by the attack were reimbursed. Layla.
Well, that's going to do it for us. On behalf of Nick Thomas and myself, you are now in sync with MilCyberSync. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next week.